It's Delia, and I thought it'd be cool to share an experiment. And we're going to be talking about violet syrup and pH sensitivity, something I wouldn't really expect to be related, but surprisingly it is. So, violets. Pretty standard flower. It's a beautiful plant and it has a beautiful color. Have some fun facts. Violets have been around since ancient Greece. They were actually cultivated for centuries before we started using them. There are about 500 species of violets, which I thought was very cool. And violets can be different colors like blue, yellow, white, and cream. These symbolize love, affection, and dignity. Now, like many other plants, you can actually make syrup from violets. And people usually make this syrup for different drinks like tea or lemonade. It's actually pretty good. I would recommend trying it. And curiously enough, which what we're going to talk about today, is that violet syrup actually changes color. You would expect the syrup to stay purple because that's the primary color of violets, but crazily enough, it can actually change colors. Before we look into how it changes colors and what you can do to make the syrup change colors, we have to go through a handful of steps to make sure that we know how to properly make violet syrup. So, step 1, collect a handful of violets. You can get them from outside, you can buy them. Just make sure that they're violets and that you collect a decent amount so that you can have a lot of syrup. Step 2, clean them carefully and thoroughly under water, very similarly to the way that you would clean fruits or vegetables before you eat them. Make sure you clean them very, very carefully so they're clear from any dirt or little bugs that remain on them, and to make sure that your violets are as fresh and healthy for you to eat as possible. Step 3, you're going to place your violet petals and your flowers into a clean bowl and pour hot filtered water over the violets. Not boiling water, just hot. You don't want to ruin it by using boiling water, so just make sure that it's decently warm. I would say probably shower warm. And then step 4, once those violets are soaking, make sure that they soak overnight. The next day is when you start step 5. So from there, you strain the violets from the mixture and place the purple water in a separate bowl or container. I would recommend a glass container to make sure that you can see everything that's going on and it can maintain the heat. Step 6, place the liquid into a glass container and double boil it. You can use a double boiler, or you can follow the picture where you put a bowl over a pot and just boil like you would. Double boil it until all the sugar is dissolved in the syrup. And when it comes to this, just add the sugar to your taste. And now, once you have that done and cooled off and all the sugar is dissolved, your violet syrup is complete. And as you can see in the image, it's a really beautiful purple, very nice, tastes good, and it's actually pretty good for you. It has a lot of nutrients. Now here's the fun part. So, before we get into the fun part, actually, we had to look at some prior information to kind of set up the context of what we're going to talk about and how it actually changes color. So, in order to do that, we have to look at what a pH scale is. pH is a measure of how acidic or the basicity of a liquid solution. It translates the values and the concentration of hydrogen ions. It has a range from 0 to 14. If a solution is less than 7, the solution is acidic. If a solution is more than 7, it is basic. If the solution lays at a 7 or around a 7, the solution is neutral. It's important, the pH scale is important because it reflects the chemical conditions of a solution and helps control the availability of nutrients and the behavior of chemicals, because it provides a standpoint and a scale of how a scientist or a chemist would rate the solution. So it's really important. Now here is where the violet ties in. So violets and pH sensitivity, like I said in the beginning, you would not really expect it to be connected, but it is. Violets have a pigment called anthocyanin. It's really difficult to say. Anthocyanin, which has antioxidant effects, which makes it actually pretty healthy for you when you consume it, which is why violet syrup is edible. It won't make you sick. It's good. It's also the pigment that gives violets their color. So anthocyanin has a neutral pH of 7 when it has a purple pigment, which is why we're using purple violets from the beginning. So here's where the color changing magic comes from. And so, because the anthocyanin in violets has a neutral pH, due to this, it reacts to certain acids and bases. So, now, our next step, if you wish to see how the experiment works, you have to add syrup to lemon juice, just standard lemon juice. Lemon juice has a pH of 2, making it an acid. So, when adding the syrup to the lemon juice, the reaction between the neutral syrup and the acidic juice mixing into a new solution, the solution actually turns pink. It's a really pretty pink, but it goes from this deep purple to this really light milky yellow into a really crazy pink color, and that just occurs due to the reaction between a neutral solution and the acidic solution, more specifically the reaction between the lemon and the violet syrup. Now, we said that there was an acid, so of course we have to see what happens when you put it with a base. And this is where the color changing magic occurs again. So now, repeat the same thing, but you're going to do it a little differently. So now add the violet syrup to a mixture of baking soda and water. Sounds a little weird, but people do it. You mix a little bit of baking, like I would say half a tablespoon of baking soda and 2 tablespoons of water. That's just an example. It doesn't have to be a lot. You can do more, obviously, if you want a bigger reaction. And the mixture of soda and water has a basic pH of 9. So, repeat it once again. When adding the syrup to the mixture, the reaction between the syrup, which is neutral, and the mixture, which is basic, makes the solution green. This color, in my opinion, isn't as fun as the pink, but it still does a really crazy reaction enough to induce such a color to come from purple and almost this clear liquid. So it's really interesting and it's really cool. And there you have it. I would definitely recommend you try this at home. It's a fun, safe science experiment, and you can get some excellent lemonade out of it while also having some fun and learning about the pH scale. So you're hitting multiple wins in one simple science experiment. Thank you.